The other day I saw this. This. Okay, nope. Testing this myself, there's just no way. Here's my stats for the two of them. I got it surprisingly close. I'm showing you their stats on this screen because viewing them on the actual stats screen is not an accurate representation of their stats as it doesn't account for stacks. Uptime on Anby's Shadow Harmony is easy, so her crit rate and damage will permanently be 82.2% and 241.2%. Harumasa has a crit rate and damage of 66.6% and 224.4%, but his enhanced dash attack has an inherent 25% crit rate and a 72% crit damage buff. So when using his basics, dodge counter, or ultimate, his stats are as shown here, but specifically during his enhanced dash attack, his crit rate is 91.6% and crit damage is 296.4%. As for why his attack is higher, it's because he has an attack percent disc in slot 5, whereas Anby has electric damage. Haru is using 4-piece Woodpecker Electro and 2-piece Branch and Blade. Anby is using 4-piece Shadow Harmony, 2-piece Branch and Blade. As for specific substats, they both coincidentally have a relevant substat total of 32. I wasn't even going for that, just a nice coincidence. My testing methodology was to compare only Anby to only Harumasa, so I used teams which either character could slot into. For Corruption Complex, I used Pulchra and Astra Yao. I'll post the full videos of both of these attempts here on my channel so you can see that I know my rotations, but my final score with Harumasa was 36k, while my final score with Anby was 37k. Although I did mess up in the last 2 seconds during Anby's run, so it could have potentially been 37.5k. But yeah, that's a smaller difference than I was expecting. Some of you may point out that Astra's ult benefits Haru more than it does Anby, and that is a thought, but I would counter that this buff, the one specifically made for Anby, is much better for her than this buff is for Haru, which is all he has to work with. And hey, if you're curious, I tried the fight using Anby's buff for Haru and still managed a 33k, which is a shockingly small difference considering the buff this gives aftershock damage, a type of damage that Haru doesn't have. But hey, what about the other boss? There are 2 Electric Weak enemies in Deadly Assault, right? Next up we have our returning friend, Typhon Destroyer, and he'll be facing off against our Universal Team Comp, A-Rank Anby, and Nicole, the secret S-Rank. For this one I decided to give Anby, that is Soldier Zero Anby, the clear advantage by not using Astra Yao. So using the buff meant for Anby, she finished with a final score of 33.5k. As for Haru, I decided to also use the buff meant for Anby as just an extra layer of challenge and finished with a score of 28k. A more significant gap for now, but what about the other buff? Well, if you head on over to my other videos, you'll find this one from 2 months ago when Typhon Destroyer was first introduced. The buff here is similar to Rapid Aid, but the fight was a lot harder because you actually consumed assist points, making it impossible to max out the performance points. And yet, using the same team along with the buff more fitting for Haru, you'll see my final score of 32.5k. And that was a harder version of the fight. Beep beep update, this vid took so long that a new Deadly Assault came out and boy do I have some results for you. This time I chose to fight the Ballet twins because the Electric Weak enemy was Typhon again and we don't need to rehash that. Anyway, I decided to do this extremely thoroughly and so I fought the twins 72 times. 36 with Haru and 36 with Anby. For 12 of the fights, I used the stats recommended directly from Prydwen. For 12, I used what I thought was the best disk drive setup, and for 12, I used the setup that Zenless Optimizer said was best. What I wound up with was one extremely powerful set which I used for both characters. It was a 4-piece Shadow Harmony, 2-piece Branch and Blade with 34 relevant substats. I used Kaleda and Lucy for the teammates because I wanted a team which didn't favor one character over the other. It activates their additional abilities, it stuns, it buffs, it's just a very normal, standard team. Now here's where it gets interesting. Keep this in mind because as for the buff, I used Anby's buff for both of them. So before you see the results, I want you to remember that only Anby gets a flat 30% damage buff to her aftershock attacks, and has permanent uptime on the 15% increased attack as well as the 40% crit damage. Meanwhile, Harumasa has to rely on dodge counters to maintain the buff won't last the entire stun duration, and Haru has to wait until after a dodge counter to stun the enemy just to ensure the maximum possible uptime. With that many points in Anby's favor, what's the difference? Haru's best score was a 24k, but it was one of my first attempts, so I wasn't recording. So here's a 23.5k, but 24k is my actual best. And Anby, with all of the massive buffs in her favor, managed a 26k. Yeah, as with before, the difference just isn't there. I imagine that if we had a buff which truly favored neither character, Haru would be even, or perhaps even out-damage Anby. Some of you are probably asking about the team of Nicole and Astra, which Anby can use to demolish Deadly Assault, but unfortunately that team doesn't activate Haru's additional ability, which is why I didn't test it. But even if you did want to go there, I would then point out that Haru's team of Ching-Yi and Astra can, well... Now to be fair, this team has Ching-Yi and Astra at M1, but even at M0 you'd still be looking at a higher score than Anby. But I consider this all irrelevant anyway. There's always going to be some hot new character coming out, and I want this to serve as a comparison of the two DPSs rather than the supporting cast. Now, someone in chat, twitch.tv/thecaptainvp, suggested I try using Notorious Hunt, but that didn't work so well. The fact is that Notorious enemies, even the ones not weak to electric, die so damn fast that it winds up being a case of how fast can you stun them. It's pretty much over as soon as you do, and your DPS is almost irrelevant. It's almost like these bosses were designed to be some type of weakly repeatable that they didn't want you to have to spend a lot of time on. Wait a minute. So our final stop is Shiyu defense. I'll admit, I do not care about Shiyu defense, so I didn't put that much effort into it. I like the long boss battles much better. My personal results were that I was able to get equal clear times with Haru, but a clean run with him took a lot more resets than a clean run with Anby. With practice, you can certainly overcome that, but as stated, I don't care to put that much time and effort into Shiyu. So ignore me, let's move over to someone who actually does care about Shiyu defense. Shout out to Zeto Genshin, who made this video from the creator server. I'll let the clear times play side by side for a direct comparison. You can see it's the same supporting team of Trigger and Astra for both of them. All characters are M0 with their signature W engine. As I don't have access to the creator experience server, I can't talk on his play with Trigger, but from my surface understanding of her mechanics, it seems fine. His play with Anby was pretty clean with no obvious mistakes. As for Haru, he messed up the stun rotation a little by not saving 6 electro marks on the field for the stun window, but it was still pretty good overall. Okay, final results. Haru was 2 seconds slower, and that 2 seconds could absolutely be made up for with some slightly better play. Anyway, I think I've thoroughly proved that this is complete bullshit. I think I know what's happening here. I believe that Prydwen is creating this tier list from the wrong mindset. It seems like their tier list is at least in part influenced by the results of average players. But that's not what a tier list is. Now, I'm 33 and I've been around the fighting game community my whole life. I've been a competitive player in that community in many tournament scenes for about 18 of those years, so I know what a tier list is all about. The purpose of a tier list is to show each character played at their best. Take, for example, I don't know, Inkling from Smash Bros. And I'm just picking Smash Bros because it's a game everybody knows. Go look at any tier list and you'll see that Inkling has been a high tier or above for the entire life of the game, despite never winning a single major. Why? That's because pros recognize that Inkling has the tools and potential to win, even if she hasn't yet. You may be saying, Cap, ZZZ is not a fighting game, but that doesn't matter. Tier lists aren't fighting game exclusive, they exist in any game with gameplay options. Metroidvanias have tiers for weapons or equipment, shooters have tiers for the best guns, and so on. ZZZ is not as deep of a game as, say, Guilty Gear. Ramathal, my beloved, please answer my phone calls. But it's not dead simple either. The devs allow you a good deal of flexibility and skill expression. It's not as caveman as just hold attack, press EX when ready. I mean, you can beat the story that way, but that is so not the limit.
I did it!
And another thing, because this is a gacha with characters coming out all the time, I think it would be insincere to create the tier list based only on the team comps a character has available, because that is an ever-changing and growing list. A character should be primarily based on their own merits, with their potential team comps being referred to as a secondary priority. Looking at this tier list, all I can say is, it looks like ease of use or easy team comps played too much of a factor here. It's a list that the average player might look at and say, yeah, it looks good to me. At the very least, I feel like I've proven Haru at least belongs here. Any lower is just mendacious. Now there's a vocab word for you. Anyway, I stream both here and on Twitch. If you like the video, please subscribe, please follow me, and I will see you in the next one. Now get off my ship. Bye-bye.